Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just Our Thoughts. This is presented by Last Level Games. My name is Phil. This is Jason.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
This is Var.
How's it going?
Hi, Bar.
He's just always so excited to be here.
Always.
We bring to you a new topic every week, something that's going on in games, something outside of games. We did the Earth is Flat before, so it doesn't really have to be games. But today we're going to kind of go for a bigger overarching concept of video games, and kind of something they might honestly be lacking. Var kind of did the research, kind of brought everything up for this one. So Var, how about you go with kind of explaining what we're talking about and kind of start us off into a discussion.
Okay.
Down the rabbit hole, Var.
Yeah, no going back.
So, it is Black History Month currently, unless you're watching this video after February. There's a 1 in 12 chance that I'm right.
Unless I
And
fuck up, this will be uploaded at some point in February.
March 1st.
And with that in mind, I would love to bring up the topic of diversity in video games.
Okay.
I don't bring this up as a topic that trying to force an opinion. I would just like to discuss with you fine gentlemen. When
Thank
I
you.
say diversity in video games, what's the first thing to come to your mind?
Aliens.
Barrett.
Barrett. Really? It was
I
straightforward.
really wish Barrett was not the first thing that came to your mind.
Barrett. I don't know.
I really wish that.
So realistically, there isn't much in the way of a diverse landscape, right? So
Which is a problem, right?
right. So really, when you think about it, think about like big impacts or big impactors that are not your white male lead role, right? We've got like, can we just agree that like 2015 announcements in games don't count?
So you're talking pre this.
However you want
But
to look at it.
you can either
Well,
way
because-
and still make the
Because
argument.
we can talk about that, about how maybe we're moving the right direction.
Yeah, we can get to there. We can talk about like
But
up until this point.
historically,
Historically, yeah.
it's your white male, right?
Traditionally, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So Var, you found an article that talked about the average.
Yeah.
What is it? Average
There's
game. The
There's an
protagonist?
idea of what the average protagonist,
Mhm.
who he is,
Yeah.
what he's like, what he looks like,
Yeah,
what he even sounds like.
yeah,
There's
Yeah.
an idea within the video game world that there is the average man.
Mhm.
No.
More likely than not, he is white, brown hair, some variant of blue, green, or brown eyes.
yeah.
Now, think of the games you've played recently or fond of as a franchise and see how many times that shoe fits.
Yeah, it's a template
Yes.
for a traditional.
More likely than not,
protagonist.
one of your favorite video game protagonists falls into that category.
Yeah, mine's an Italian plumber, so
Is he a brown Italian plumber?
no,
there's not even brown people in the game,
no.
There we go.
right?
Well,
No, I don't
and
think so.
Before I go any further, one of the things I really need to point out before it gets pointed out the wrong way. When I say diversity, I don't mean simply just black people.
Not Barrett.
Not just Barrett.
Catching on.
All right.
I mean any of your non-white male characters.
No.
And it's not to say that those games aren't good because of it.
Mhm.
It's to say, why is that the norm?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, and I think just to disclose right now, like we love video games. We're not saying that it's trying to portray a certain thing all the time, and we're not like how do I put it? I don't know. It's not a situation where we're hating on everything, because we all hate that, right? But it's something we're aware of, and something that I think we were talking about the other day. So we said let's record a podcast on it, right? I think the bigger problem is it's now more the awareness is out there more because you have more realistic games. So you have games that are telling certain stories. Because think about it, like when games were Nintendo and stuff like that, you generally had white protagonist, but you couldn't really tell because it was all pixelated and everything like that. Yeah. A lot of games like Tetris, they didn't even have characters in that regard. But as games like Final Fantasies and stuff like that, I think they do a good job of trying to like put out diverse characters because you have like Vivi, you have what's his name, Zidane, who was basically a monkey, half monkey. Titus, Waka. Yeah. I'm not saying they're doing it right, but they're putting it out there, right? Mm-hmm. But I think when people get upset about the fact that like there's a template for what a male protagonist in a video game is, they have an argument, but I don't think it's necessarily like that game developers are trying to perpetuate white people as only being able to fit. I just think it's a lazy thing that they don't realize that they're doing all the time. It's like, all right, what do people respond well to? A white protagonist. Like, I don't think they go out of their way to make sure he has to be white. You know what I mean? And the problem is that they need to challenge that a little bit more, I think, right? And they're starting to do that with Horizon and Tomb Raider's always been prominent, but I mean, she's a little susceptible to
white girl. So I think kind of what one of your points really sticks of like, it's kind of just what they did, and I think now that we actually have a lens on it and it gets more realistic. So one of my favorite things wasn't video game related; it was Star Trek related, and it was like, wait a minute, why in the future is there not really any diversity anywhere? I mean, there was one or two, right? But they're like, wait a minute, shouldn't there like, I don't know. Which to me, by Star Trek time, we would all just be one hodgepodge at that point. They're just to me, it's just all gonna be it's a melting pot, right? We are
motherfuckers.
Yeah.
On that point alone, there is a prevailing theory that the reason we aren't more like that now is because we have views of race that prevent us from embracing such a thing.
Yeah, I get that.
And we have video games, especially as a culture, and not to say it's the only place we find this. Like, if we were to compare white male leads versus all other demographics, they would still win out in films, TV shows, whatever have you.
That's what the Oscars is like. They're having an issue with now. So,
But the thing is, it also, like your example of Star Trek, also brings up the idea of tokenism.
Yeah.
Where you have cultures. You have cultures, but they're there solely to say that they're there.
They're there, yeah.
They're a representation of this isn't just white people.
Yeah.
Their actual input or importance may be minimal, but you can say they're there.
Right, they just need to have a physical presence.
Yes. Yeah. And when discussing diversity in video games, I'm always worried that you have two negative options down the slippery slope of where this can go.
Okay.
Tokenism, which I think is what's currently being embraced.
Yeah.
I think more likely than not, if you have a character who isn't the lead and is of some other race or gender, it's a supporting character. Mm-hmm. It's either someone you're talking to over the radio, someone you interact with now and then, like some sagely individual who helps you progress through the game. They're there, but they're not the hero.
Mm-hmm.
They're there, but they're not as significant as the lead.
Yeah.
And the other path down slippery slope is what some people refer to as reverse discrimination, or what legally a lot of people refer to as affirmative action, where you would have leads solely for the purpose of saying, there, we did it.
That's stupid too.
And you don't develop the character in that light, but you address it solely as a problem.
Yeah,
Like,
it would be like making Nathan Drake and then just turning him black, like doing nothing differently, not like embracing maybe who he was or where he came from, just being like, well, guys, we had to ship a game with a black person, so Nathan Drake, hey, guess what?
Mhm.
We're gonna swap out your color palette.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a theory, and stick with me on this. Just it's gonna take a minute to get there, but stick with me about why they're all just generic white guys, right? It's a theory. It's the Twilight theory, okay?
Like the
Of
books.
the books, like the books. So when people read that book, right, women loved it, right?
Yeah.
Because the man of it, Edward, was very powerful, and he was everything a woman wanted, right?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Theoretically.
Sadly I've seen the movies, so
Right.
I'm not familiar. So
it did not cross over in the movie.
Right?
Yeah.
But the chick in the movie, which is what I'm going to equate the main characters in these games to, was nothing. She was a blank slate. There was nothing about her remarkable. She didn't do anything remarkable. She didn't do anything out of the ordinary. She didn't do anything that your regular person couldn't do. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how I look at these generic white males. Is they're trying to make a character that I know you can't be these people, but they're trying to make the character that you could be like, oh, I could do that, or I could see myself, like I could be in those shoes. Now, wait for it. That's where the second part comes in. I don't know if you guys ever heard about this before. So, as it goes in America, we are becoming more and more accepting of lifestyles, right?
Yeah.
But whenever you see homosexuality, it's always girl on girl. Do you know why?
Why?
Because guys are okay with it, and it's easy for girls to swallow. But guy on guy, guys aren't okay with, as a mass, we're not okay with,
Yeah.
and girls are.
Yeah.
For the most part, right? So every time they're going to show girl kissing in love, hanging out, whatever, because the guys like it and the girls are willing to deal with it, right? So that's what I think is this problem we have right now, is we have this stereotyped character over these years who became this generic know-nothing that, unfortunately,
People can swallow.
minorities have just kind of got to this point where they're okay with it.
Well, oh, wait.
Yeah.
With that in mind,
Yeah.
Just from the minority perspective,
Yeah.
this is not something that it's a matter of being okay with.
Okay, then what is it?
This is a matter of this is what video games are.
Right.
It's accepting either way. Right?
It's not a matter of consent, like approval. Same thing with movies. I can't sit back and say I'm not going to sit back and say I'm going to boycott every film that does not have a black lead.
Right.
For one thing, I'd miss out on a hell of a lot of movies.
Yeah.
I'd miss out a hell of a lot of games.
No.
And the other thing is, as put forward to me,
Yeah.
if I waited to see black male leads as something I could relate to before I started playing video games, I would not have played video games for a very long time.
Right.
And I would still have very few to choose.
Okay.
Video games are presented to me as this medium. This is something, approval or not, this is what they are. And there's no sign of waiting for my approval or waiting for individuals to change something like this. That's not for me at least, that's not the case even currently.
Right.
I bring up this discussion because I think it has a really one of the really important things I see in it is video games for the most part is escapism.
Mm-hmm.
You are in worlds you will never see, doing things you will never do, on scales that are quite generally impossible.
Okay.
Right. No ceilings, as you call it.
Yeah.
Fucking no ceilings, bar.
I love it when there's no ceiling. But the thing is, if it's escapism, why does it pander to a specific group?
Right, but it's because of what I'm saying. it's because of its being this way for so long, and whether or not you accept it or approve of it, you are more willing than the other set of people to play as the white person. And that's why. It's what I'm saying. It's the same thing about the homosexuality is they cast the girls because the bulk of America is more willing to accept them if they're girls, right? And that's what I'm saying about the video game characters. The bulk of America is more willing to accept them if they're cast like this.
Which
now, whether that's right or wrong is a whole different conversation and whatnot. I'm just saying what I think, my thoughts on why we've kind of developed this role of generic white guy hero. The other thing is not 90. I'd say half the time. I'm sorry, I have the pictures from the article pulled up, and I'm just looking, and probably 50% of the time you don't even see the character.
That's a different
You know
topic.
it.
There's like a game, well, first person games, like BioShock, where I think, and a lot of people, I've read a lot where people are saying this is the cheapest way out, but I think it's way more fascinating measure to kind of eliminate, like, other than a white hand, you're not focusing on the stereotypical male lead,
right?
And then generally, you're in these games, you're not necessarily focusing on the stereotypical scenarios, or that they came from the stereotypical background, or that they were a stereotypical nobody. Like there's the idea that this is made easier for them, that generally this first person character is not going to say anything.
Yep.
Generally, they're not going to be featured, like their face is never going to be featured. So it's easier from that perspective to just get away with, but I think it's better. Like
to be neutral.
Well, not just neutral, but I think it makes it more story driven instead of more individual driven.
So this is gonna sound like very far fetched, but you would like it to be first person and then the guy wearing gloves, so you don't know what race he is?
I don't really. Sure, you can do that, but the main thing for me is it's less of pushing the hero prototype archetype down my throat.
Okay.
It's less saying that, well, we expect you to relate to this guy you look nothing like, in my case, and guy whose attitude doesn't really match your own. Like, there's not only the appearance, there's the way that people act. If they're going to, like, I think it was briefly discussed in the article, if they're going to be witty, be comical at all, it's going to be some kind of sarcastic humor that we've seen played out 1,000 times.
Yeah, like Nathan Drake.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be stoic to the nth degree of just, I got to get the mission done,
Any Call of Duty.
Yes.
But it's not Solid Snake.
Well,
don't even. Yes. He was the same way. He just got old, but he's still like, Metal Gear Solid 1. He was the prototype.
The thing is, and I feel this is a fair argument when fair topic when discussing race, and I revert back to escapism. One of the reasons that I never look at games at a racist view before I play them is I'm not in it to relate to the character.
Yeah, that's my problem. That's my thing with it.
Where someone may be saying that they're doing this to pander to a demographic. One, I've never been that demographic, so they were never pandering to me.
Okay.
They were telling me stories. So I'm not trying to relate to this character. I'm not trying to pretend this is exactly what I would do in these circumstances. I'm escapism.
Yeah.
I'm being told a story. I'm making a few choices, but I'm being told a story, and this character is the vessel in which that story is presented to me. That being said, there's something about the idea. It's even on a social basis. If you walk into a room and you instinctively realize you look nothing like any of the individuals in that room,
Yeah.
for some people that's unnerving,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a sign in some places that you're not welcome.
Okay.
In a lot of places,
Okay.
the fact that you're not represented in a group is intentional, and a group is trying to show you that you are not welcome without blatantly saying it. Because
Okay. So I get that part of it, and I like we see where you're going with it. So in a bigger response, if this is where we are, and this is kind of why we are where we are, right? How do we get better? What do you think is a way out of the woods then?
I think
That
the first thing we would have to do, and very interested to see what you guys would answer. What would you define as better?
Well, I think the problem with it for me is, and I'm not trying to say that it's not important, but it's one of those things where, like you said it when it's talked about relating to the games. I'm not playing a game to get my story. You know what I mean? Like, I'm getting it to get a story. Like, at least those games. I think of it more as uh, a lazy way to write character development, and I think the author of the article mentions that sometimes it's just more cost effective to do it this way because they don't have to develop any sort of backstory. Sometimes they don't have time to develop backstory and stuff like that, so they just go with the type A character. They typecast it, right? But yeah, I would say they can challenge. We can challenge developers to present stories in a different way. I just don't know if
we don't care though.
At the end of the day, is it really worth it? Because people are buying Bioshocks. People are buying.
Right. That's the bigger problem, right?
People are buying Uncharted and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it's a market thing, right? So if the market doesn't care
enough,
right? Because we're obviously having the conversation. But if the market doesn't care enough, then there is no fixing it. Does that make sense?
At least at this point.
I think that's the perspective.
Unless you make the market care. Right?
Yeah.
I think that's the perspective that leaves you with current gaming.
Right.
Where when you have I forget his name, Locke.
Yeah.
Commander Locke in the recent Halo game.
Yeah.
It's considered kind of a we're pushing the boundaries thing.
Mm-hmm.
Opposite him, the face of a franchise and basically a console for going on 3 generations now. Instead of that feeling that you're pushing boundaries when you do something like that, for me, better would be not forcing diversity upon someone, or the industry itself, but just seeing approach an embrace towards it. Because although race is a huge factor, there is that factor for gender as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And there's the problem with the female leads we have being over sexualized.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the same goes with race. I don't know if you guys remember the game True Crimes, Streets of LA.
Yeah.
Barely.
I know it's like Grand Theft Auto with a lot more karate. And I remember playing.
And I'm trying to remember the name of the game now. There was a more recent one done by I think it was done by Square Enix. But essentially in these games, you play an Asian character, and the feeling, and I could be completely wrong on this, the feeling is they tied so many Asian elements into it to validate why the main character is Asian. Like, he is dealing with the triad or the Yakuza
Yeah.
He is in Asia, or he is in some like Chinatown,
Yeah.
or
But
some
see,
resemblance of an Asian city or
yeah.
habitat where
Yep.
it's, well, he's this way for this reason.
Yeah, but
And it's
that's
the
hard.
same thing done with a lot of characters.
Yeah, but that's I'm
But
telling
see,
a
that's
story.
what the hard part is.
Yeah.
Because
But
at what point does it become cliche or like, oh, you put the Asian man in Chinatown?
Oh, it's a John Woo movie. You know what I mean? Like,
It's because it's where he grew. Do you know what I mean?
What I'm saying
you're
is,
telling a story.
if these scenarios are completely escapist and completely unreal, why does he have to have so many arrows pointing at why he's Asian, and why couldn't?
Because if he doesn't, then you just look at him that, oh, they whitewashed him.
No. What I'm saying is, he is put into that world to better explain him being an Asian in that world. And what I'm trying to say, at least, having a little difficulty, is why couldn't Nathan Drake be Asian? In a world where nothing pointed to the fact that, like, there's no, he has to speak Mandarin, or he has to know Kung Fu.
Because then our conversation would be, they just wanted diversity, they made him Asian. Honestly, that's what it would be.
I mean,
you can
that's not what we would be talking about.
Yeah.
It would just be flipping the coin.
Yeah.
You can still have a character with their own backstory.
Yeah.
But what I see in these games, and I could be wrong, can't state that enough, is the environment explains the character more than the character is actually explained.
But they're
for
using
that
the
game.
environment to explain the character.
So the other part of that would be, if a white character were in the same situation, would it be some kind of taboo? Would it be some kind of horrible thing for a white character?
So part of that
Sands of Time.
Well,
look at Sands of Time. When they cast Jake Gyllenhaal as the fucking
as
Arabian
a Persian,
prince,
yeah.
Persian prince.
Yeah.
They ripped him for that.
Yeah.
Ripped it.
All right. Two different things.
Well, they did that.
Two different things.
No, I know what you're saying. They did, but so when you talk about that,
a black guy in Chinatown, is that taboo? It
depends on the story you're telling. It depends on because think about it. If part of that story background is that he grew up there and
that's character,
all that stuff. Yeah,
that's
but
character.
the game you're talking about, I know which one you're talking about. It's about the fact that he grew up with all these people, and now he's a detective trying to arrest. Like, that's part of there's context behind it.
Yes, understandable.
Yeah,
completely. I get what you're saying, but what I'm saying is, I find it odd that that's where I see, other than studios specifically pumping out games by Asian studios. That's where I see,
which they view our culture differently. Like, that's another thing that people don't realize. You know what I mean? Like, they have their own culture and perceptions about, how white people are, how African Americans are, how Latinos are. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, but
most cultures have that feeling.
But people don't understand that when they're talking about this oftentimes too. You know what I mean?
I may have gotten the wrong example with
the John Woo film game.
Well,
John Woo film game.
I forget. I know which game. I know which game you're talking about.
Not that game.
No, it came out recently for, I think, didn't they it's dogs.
Sleeping Dogs?
Sleeping Dogs. That's the one.
Yes, that's it.
Wasn't that terrible?
That was alright.
Actually, I liked it.
Yeah, it was alright. But, can I ask you?
But there are games, like, I think, more along the lines of Yakuza.
Yeah.
Where it is the character, it is the environment.
Yeah.
It's
Japan. It's in Japan, I think. Yeah. In Japan. I never played them.
I love those.
Can I ask you? Are you saying that? And I'm asking because I'm trying to understand.
Clarity. I guess.
Yes. Are you saying that you prefer the absence of race the absence of needing to have a race, like, you know what I mean? Because what I kind of agree with that is in the context of like certain games that don't need it. Like Halo's a good example for Master Chief, because everyone was like, "Oh, what's Master Chief like? I want to see under his mask." I don't care. Like I don't care.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's one of
the biggest mistake that they did.
Halo has done it right.
But here's the thing, did they though? Because the biggest thing that they did that I didn't think they should have done is prior to the one that just released, they kind of showed his face and they made him white. And then they opposed him with Locke, who's black. You know what I mean?
Completely. Here's
Like,
the thing, though.
It's just one of those things. If we're talking about that, like that kind of stuff just doesn't make sense to me. Like they shouldn't have done it. They should have just kept Master Chief with his helmet on the whole fucking time.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Get what you're saying. Bear with me.
Yeah.
And my view of Halo has been the character who is, generally speaking, more than a face. They're duty. The Spartans are always duty.
Duty. You knew that was gonna happen.
But they're obligated to go further and do more.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that goes with all the Spartans. And let's not forget, not all the Spartans, not even in the older stories, not all the Spartans were white. Not all the Spartans were male.
Yes.
Right.
They were diverse and
Over time.
Over
time. Because you didn't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they didn't.
But that,
until
that
they
was
started
good aspect.
developing the arc, and they're like, we can't make them all white. Let's be honest, guys.
Come on, guys.
Can't make them all white.
I don't look at it that way.
I know, but I'm saying, like, I'm kind of feeding the stigma, the perception.
Sergeant Johnson. But the thing I'm saying is, there is
Johnson.
There is an archetype within Halo
that was Phil.
That there's a group. Instead of having this one protagonist who is the most super of super humans, there is a group of individuals doing this. That group is filled with all races. It is not one white man who is the strongest, smartest, or fastest, whatever, in the entire universe. No. Which is what some of these games give you, like Cole McGrath in Infamous.
Yeah.
He's the most powerful being in existence.
Yeah.
And
he could have been black.
Look a certain way.
Yeah, he could have been black. He could have been Latino.
He wasn't.
Yeah.
So then again, how do you fix this? If you perceive this as an issue, how do we make it that there's more stories you feel you can relate to, or more characters?
But that's the problem. I think you're messing up if you immediately say relate to, because then I think you get Barrett, and I don't like Barrett.
No, because Barrett's a token. We're already past that. Yeah. Barrett's a token. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The problem I see is you'll get characters like Barrett. You'll get characters like, I forget his name in Gears of War.
Coltrane.
Yeah. Coltrane. You'll get characters like that, which are more about what you perceive somebody can relate to.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing you're getting now.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, you don't have the most individuals who play these games do not have the attitude or experiences of the main character.
Right.
Even if they're being pandered to and don't realize it.
Right, but that's why they're a blank slate.
The problem is when you start dipping into other cultures and start trying to make characters that are quote unquote relatable to them, you're going to come into a world of problems, at least in my view.
So
because for one thing, you don't know exactly who they are to say that this is relatable to them or that they speak this way or whatever have you. To me, that's dangerous. The thing I said, starting off, I don't play games to have them relate to me. To me, that's foolish. For me to say I want somebody who directly relates to me and then have them throw lightning out of their hands, kind of one defeats the other.
Yeah.
To say you look like me or sound like me and you can do things I can't do, what's the point of you looking and sounding like me?
Mm-hmm.
The fact of the matter is, it's like movies. I'm not gonna be what Will Smith is in most of his films.
Oh, I want to be though.
Yeah.
Ali, Kumbaya, Ali.
No, I want to be Ali.
I do. He's awesome.
I want to have a dog
You
like
know?
that.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Fucking women.
I want to solve
sorry.
a Rubik's cube like he
Well-
did in Pursuit of Happiness. Just give me the job. Sorry,
What?
you were saying.
I want to
What?
see that, like I said, I'm not the only person in that room. That not everyone in that room looks different from
But
me.
I'm confused because you're telling me the only way out is them doing toking people.
No.
You don't want that. Then what is
No.
the way out? That's what I'm asking.
Oh God, what's his
What
name?
is-
Like the focus you've put into characters, the Walking Dead's lead,
Oh, Lee Everett.
Yeah.
Lee Everett. There are tons of stereotypes that people can apply to him, but he was a thought out character.
Yes.
There was effort into making him.
Yes.
He was not a blank slab and said, "Oh, we'll just put blackface on that and we're done." No.
Mhm.
If you're going to put that effort into narrative for what you currently have, which is what's there, as much as as immediately Jay wants to shut me down about Solid Snake, a ton of effort was put into that character over multiple games. That's a lot of character development. It wasn't just blank slab, here we go. No. There's a lot of thought and a lot of effort. That's what I want. And I want that to not always look the same. Doesn't have to sound like me. Doesn't have to be like me. Doesn't have to look exactly like me.
Are you talking more along the lines of Mass Effect, then?
Well, but the created character is kind of a cop out too, because that's when you get into situations like Liam Neeson, me, and My Black Dad.
Yeah.
You
That's
hired voice actors
a little
for
suspect.
exactly what you wanted.
Yeah.
You hired those guys to be exactly what you wanted them to be in the exact scenario, like the default face. That's what you hired them for.
Yeah,
And
but
that's the voice they're going to be.
okay.
It's not going to change for skin tone. You're not going to get an accent when you put in a certain facial texture.
Well, they had
No.
multiple voice choices from what's John Shepard? I thought they did.
No.
Oh.
No, they didn't have one for a
He's
male or female shepherd, because I'm pretty sure female shepherd was always Jennifer Hale.
Yes, it was always Jennifer Hale.
Yeah, there's a voice that they picked out for you.
Okay.
That's who, like, you get all the facial customization in the world, but that's who they made it for. And I remember there was a reason that they picked the original model for Shepard too. Like that was their intention. You can have your choice of how you look, but there was someone you were intended to be. But what I'm saying is, you can give me Locke. You can give me a guy I can't relate to, but just doesn't look like every other person who's been carrying the mantle of hero through the video game industry.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be a man. You can give me characters that you put just as much time, effort, and passion and consideration into as you have been for the characters who look the same now. That's what you can do.
Mm.
I think
I
that's
don't know.
progress.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'd agree with you, and I think we're kind of slowly but surely progressing in that, like those aspects of diversity with women roles, with Locke and stuff like that. For me, I've just never had that problem, but it could be, a multitude of reasons why, obviously. But I think what it sounds to me is that it's like, you want to ignore their race, but don't ignore their race. Like, you want them to not be a certain way, but then
You want them to be perfect.
oh,
Like, they have to be perfect.
or first
No.
person or non-existent.
No, not at all.
Because I think one thing that you got to keep in mind is there's a lot of shitty writers out there. So there are going to be, once you...
And I think it
once you
ties to that. I think it's just
even
lazy.
that-
It's lazy.
Yeah, once you even that, you're just going to get a bunch of tokens you're not going to want.
Yeah.
I honest to God, this sounds terrible, but the three of us have actually talked about this before. I think it goes back to a baseline culture of pushing people who feel the way you do into making their own video games.
Sure.
And I think that's what it would take. I think it takes pushing people, Var, who feel that they've been slighted the way you feel, or feel that the industry doesn't have what you want, to make those games for yourselves till you can make them into a mainstream thing. Because you don't want a guy who's been making a white male, brown-haired, blue-eyed guy for the past 15 years to all of a sudden make a black guy. You don't. Or a Hispanic, or a female, or whatever. You don't.
To be perfectly honest, I think it's a little... I don't think it's as grave as you consider it to be.
What do you mean?
I think, from my perspective of writing in different media forms that I've seen, and even in video gaming, there are people who have been writing for a white male lead for so long who can approach the task of someone who's not a white male lead.
But there's no reason to.
People still buy the game.
I'm not taking my writer off Call of Duty to make a game I don't know if it's going to make money. He's going to stay on Call of Duty. He's going to make 50 more of them. And guess what? Every single one of them has sold about 14 million with a white lead, so we're just going to keep going.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by you need to prove that, one, there's a market for it, and two, that there is the problem. And if you can do that and you go through, especially now with indie games and the ability to make games so much easier and so much boiled down, that's honestly what I think it would need. I don't think the established franchises and established names are as willing to take those risks. Because at the end of the day, if they don't make money,
I
don't care.
I don't agree with that.
Okay.
I don't agree with that. I think...
Then why have we had this for so long?
Well...
What?
I think the issue needs to be brought to the attention of those who are currently making games. I don't think it solely falls on individuals who feel slighted to go around and make games completely void of the industry as it is now. I don't think that's a positive message at all.
So you think you're going to get a decent game out of somebody you forced to make the game you want? I don't understand. That's the part I don't get, and that's the part why I think you would make the better game.
You solely feel that telling somebody diversity is a good thing is forcing them to do something.
No.
I don't either.
No, but that's not what he's saying.
What I'm saying.
He's saying take the risk and put diversity in your game, and it might go wrong based on what we've seen, based on the fact that it sells, regardless of the fact that they're all white protagonists. If you're going against the norm, or if you're trying to be different, you run the risk. If you run the risk,
right. And
you get fired.
Right, and you are the one challenging a norm. So you're the one that has to prove it works. You don't just go to somebody and say, hey, by the way, I want diversity, fucking make it, all right, bitches, I'm out.
No. I think wholeheartedly that society is a proof that diversity can actually work. And I think looking at society is the evidence of you're able to look at individuals from a perspective of different from this one archetype. And there are people right now who are writing characters that look nothing like them, and they can do a phenomenal job of it. It's how much consideration is put into it. And I'm not under the belief that solely because something is successful that it cannot go under any changes whatsoever. And to be perfectly honest, to me, Call of Duty is one of those cut and dry, faceless, characterless, like we're going to show you what you look like maybe twice in the campaign and go from there. I'm not talking about my perspective changing the format of something like Call of Duty. I'm talking about something where there is more narrative, where there is more character focus,
Yeah.
embracing even if you want to look at it as a challenge, embracing the challenge of something different,
That costs
which
money.
is in
No.
That costs money. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, they look at, like, think about it. They don't need to have backstory for those, for the way those protagonists are portrayed now, right? Like, what you're saying is that you need a little bit of backstory to make them different, right?
you can't, yeah.
Right? And with that, they're sacrificing a budget somewhere, right? And I'm not saying, like, you're wrong. I'm just saying that when you're looking at it at a business end, they're like, it's not worth it. You know what I mean?
I think you're being too finite with the idea of the business end of something.
Well, I understand that, but I think you're not thinking of it like that either, because it costs money to get writers to create that kind of backstory and put it into a game. You know?
Yeah, look at backstory in Metal Gear.
Well, that's a whole other thing.
That guy's gone.
Well,
right? He cost too much money. No.
Well, in fairness, they wanted him to keep pumping those out, so it's like, hey, make this. But I don't want to make it.
What I'm saying is there's an amount of effort that goes into games now.
Okay.
And I'm not saying I expect this much more effort from those individuals. I don't. Like,
Okay.
I wouldn't be playing games if every time I picked up a game, I felt it was fundamentally lacking and offensive to me.
Mm-hmm.
If like, it's the same thing as film and music. If you feel that way with the genre, you avoid that genre.
Right.
I feel that these individuals are talented enough to do something other than what the main line is. And in some cases, we already have individuals doing stuff like that.
Right.
And I don't feel it's a drastic, overly expensive ask to embrace that.
So here's my
I'm
issue with
confused.
that. Here's my issue with that logic, VAR, is you base it in nothing but feeling. So you basically are just saying that, well, I feel it's not a big risk. I feel that it's not going to cost them a lot of money. I feel that, because what you're talking about is we're looking at a white stereotype character.
Mm-hmm.
So if we pay that same amount of attention to a black character, a Hispanic character, a female character, guess what you get? A stereotypical character just of a different race or gender. Is that what you want in the game?
Or the
Does that
whitewashed
fix it for you?
version.
See, that's what I don't understand. That's where that disconnect from what you're saying is.
Yeah.
Because that's how you get Barrett.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is. Because because you're asking them to take the same amount of resources that they're using on a shitty white person and make a great diverse person. That doesn't make sense. And I think you're wrong. I think it is the people who are upset about this and do feel that this isn't their thing that are the ones that are going to be coming through the pipelines and the ones that change it. The ones that say...
I don't, because if you want to look at it from a financial view, they're screwed from the get-go. Because you have your titans in industry, and you do not have...
you don't need titans anymore. Look at Steamlight. God, Jesus Christ. Steam Greenlight.
No.
Xbox has early access. You don't need that anymore.
Completely understand what you're saying. What I'm saying is that
Are you talking about AAA games?
Yes.
It's talking about AAA games.
Okay, so now you have Horizon Dawn, you have Recore. Those are those people. Those are those people who felt that they weren't represented. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
That's you feel that's the case in every instance of a non-white male lead.
You can't say every instance. That's not fair.
You feel that's the case in most instances
Yes.
of a
Yes, 100% I do.
I do not. I absolutely
Why?
do not.
I don't understand that.
I feel it's taking a chance. That's why I feel I feel that there is a norm, and some individuals feel compelled to take a chance outside of it, and that's where you get
So you're
creativity.
saying people are doing it for the risk, the thrill.
Some
Ooh,
people,
is this gonna fail?
well,
You
I
think
don't
that's
think
more
this.
believable than someone is
I do
passionate
not think
about a
they do it
non-white
with the
character?
approach of is it going to fail. I don't feel that way. I don't feel that in some cases they feel it's as big a deal as
Right.
others might. I I don't feel that way. I feel that there are people who are making progress. As much as it would be nice to see it all over, there are people who are making progress who aren't doing it solely because they're pushed to, or because on the other side of it that they do feel it's risky. I feel that it's just progression. I feel that there is I feel that some individuals making these games are bored of seeing the same thing. And that's why I don't feel that you have to go so far outside to those who aren't currently doing it and feel wronged to make games on their own and say this is because I felt wrong. Like I feel there will be those individuals and I wish them the best of luck. Who knows what they'll present us? But I feel that you can progress, and we in some cases we are. Like we've seen more diversity currently and seen more diversity in development than we have over a long period of time. Like we have stronger female leads in games who aren't just there because they're eye candy.
Yeah, but some of that isn't a reflection of the game industry. Some of that's a reflection of outside like other means of like media, like this whole concept of the way I feel like the kind of reportrayal of Tomb Raider of Lara Croft is a reflection of like the Hunger Games and Divergent, where it's like you're seeing writers in other like in books making more strong female leads and stuff like that. You're seeing more avenues like that where they're like, hey, we can take these chances too. You know?
But that to me that's a part of progression.
Yeah, I agree. But I just don't sometimes, more times out of not, I don't care whether or not the character's white or black. I really don't.
I understand where you're coming from.
And I'm saying to make them black, like make them any other race besides white, like a white protagonist, and to include a backstory just for that reason just doesn't make sense to me. Because it's like you're doing it for that reason, right? Because then it just changes the narrative. Like it doesn't just become about like what's a good example? I don't know, maybe like something like Metal Gear, right? Because then you're changing every single character in Metal Gear, right? You're changing Liquid, you're changing Big Boss, like everything shifts, right? Everything shifts. But would it matter that Booker DeWitt was black in Bioshock 2 or Bioshock Infinite?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying, though? It changes the narrative for the story, and then they're not trying to tell that story. Like, I know what you're saying, and I guess I can't necessarily... Like, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm saying that, for me, more times than not, it doesn't matter, except when they do it for the... Like, Barrett, when they do it, like, to portray a certain stigma, I'm just like, that's stupid. Don't do it that way. You know what I mean? Or even... What's the name of the guy from Final Fantasy 13? With the chick in his head. Yeah, like, seriously?
Actually, I thought he was a decent character.
And what about, remember Resident Evil Outbreak? The subway guy?
Wait. Oh, I don't remember his name. But he was definitely a token character.
But you know what I'm saying? Like
so was Yoko.
Yeah, but it happens. It happens everywhere, and I think you're right in that. Like they need to address it in some narratives more than others. Mm-hmm. But when you talk about like AAA games, and this is like I don't want to say it's the truth, but it's what it is right now. When you talk about narrative games, there is a general template not just for that character, but for how those games are made, because they're trying to get the most people to play the game, so they make it as generic as possible.
Right.
All right. You can't ask those people that are making that game to make certain things specific, because then it changes the type of game it is, right? What you need to do is ask the people that are like, I would say like Horizon, like I like what they're doing. I like that they redid Tomb Raider to make her more gritty, to less about her assets, and because remember the original Tomb Raiders, like that's all
those pyramids.
Yeah, exactly, and more about like her story and her backstory and the way she thinks. Like I enjoy that stuff more because I like the stories told.
Yes.
But when they force it, like they did with Master Chief, when they kind of, you never had to worry about it until they made you worry about it. Now
Right.
people had their assumptions, like they're like, oh, he's got to be white, he's got to be black. No one care. I don't care. Because I'm not there to find out whether or not he's white or black. I'm there to fuck shit up. Put a plasma grenade on a little grunt, and let him run around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing. And then to further that, when you make, because let's be honest, up until you play the game, Locke was considered an antagonist. Or one of them was a protagonist, antagonist. You had different sides deciding, right? You made him black.
No.
Now, did you do it because you wanted to add diversity, or for another reason? You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that that's what they're doing, but I'm saying that that's the thought that comes into mind.
Well,
and that's the worry, because they're putting it where they don't need it, and then they're putting emphasis on it when they don't need it.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying putting Locke in the game is like we have to make him black, but now they're putting emphasis about just is Master Chief white and is Locke black? Is that why they're fighting? I'm not saying that's, you know what I mean? Like, it's those thoughts. Seriously, think about it.
It adds a dimension that
doesn't need to be there, especially in a game that's intergalactic. Like, it's
but it's
there's fucking arbiters.
I don't think
Covenant.
I don't think that's
not coming in.
forced upon you. I think that's what the individual does. I think that's what you did. Personally,
you don't think that it was a stupid thing to make Master Chief white?
I thought it was weird that they ever showed him. I thought
Right.
that was weird.
Okay.
Right, that was stupid.
Okay. Does it bother you that he is white?
No.
Okay. Now that you know that he's white, does it bother you that Locke is black?
No.
It doesn't. Okay. That's good. But that's my point, is I don't care about that stuff.
But that's what I'm saying is, I think a studio like that,
unless you're doing it
having
like
a character,
unless you're doing it maliciously, like that slave trade game. I'm not like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, go on Steam.
yeah, because you can still buy it.
Yeah.
Yes, you can still hand them money for their
$5, $4.99.
20% off.
racism. What I'm saying is, I think it's a step forward to have a playable character like Locke take lead. Like, he could have been a token nobody in the game.
But
really,
did he?
you played the
All
game.
right, let's be honest here. Okay,
He's a token nobody.
he's supposed to be the antithesis of Master Chief, right?
I think the marketing did more of that than the game did.
No, but the storyline did too,
Right.
because Master Chief was
It
all
after
about.
him, yeah.
Well, yeah, but he was after him. He was all about like being for the army that they work for, like listening. He was strict. He was by the book, and Master Chief was the rogue.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like they're portraying, and then people put that whole idea into and also he's black. You know what I'm saying? Are you
I
there?
get you.
Bar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything okay?
Kind of. You almost went robot voice.
Sort of.
You almost went. What was the name?
Oh, Rovar?
Yes, Darth Rovar. Yep, that happened.
Anyway.
Yeah.
What I was saying was, I think it's an important step forward, and I do I'm familiar with the internet. There are going to be theories on everything, and
No.
not everything is going to be received well. But I do think it's a very important step forward. Like, if you want to break it down to the black versus white kind of thing there, the original, the Arbiter was the voice of
Yep.
Oh,
The guy from the Chronicles of Riddick.
yeah, and he was also in
The first Halo,
in
wasn't he? No,
Mass Effect.
Mass Effect. That's right. Yeah,
Keith David.
he was actually in it too, wasn't he? Was it?
He was your villain until he was your ally, and he was black, and the voice of Master Chief is white.
Yes.
And that's that's looking into it more. You have two characters who have a considerable amount of thought put into them. Locke has his own movie before the game ever came out. And he is a character you can play as, whatever his role in.
Wait. Are you going to argue that Locke is a good developed character?
What? Wait.
Is that what we're talking about? Is this your example?
I didn't watch the show, so I don't know.
I thought the movie was not great.
Okay,
Was it a
did you
movie?
see him in the game?
Yes.
And you thought he was a good developed character?
Yeah, I thought it was.
To what degree? I thought it was cool that he was in the game.
Okay.
I thought it was cool that he was a playable character, and he, to some degree, took the role of hero. Even if it's alongside an established hero. He's a playable character. He has some amount of consideration put to him. He is not the result of somebody saying, "Where's my black character?" It just didn't. They just went with it. I like that. And I'm not saying that he is the best non-white character that can be conceived of.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always going to be up for the player to decide. What I am saying is that he exists. He's an option. He's real. That's progress. He wasn't speaking in a way that degrades, like he wasn't Barrett. He wasn't speaking in a way that only a person who has never met a black person would try to stereotype him as speaking. He was capable.
So
I like that.
do you? So
And
you? Yeah. Okay.
he doesn't have to relate to me. I like that. I like that he exists. Can there be progress from that point on? Of course. But this is a major studio with their flagship having a character you play as not be the white guy, not sound like the white guy. Show his face and let you know he's a black guy. Does that put so much pressure on them to do more? I don't think so.
So, honestly, I don't think so either, because I thought he was a generic, forgettable person. I think he is the perfect example of what I said before, that if that's what you want from studios that are already developing generic white heroes, then that's fine. You can have all the Locks in the world.
Yeah, because at that point, it doesn't
Locke
matter
is
whether or
a
not he's white or
generic
black.
Nothing. He's a nothing.
It doesn't matter that he's white or black.
The movie you watched, 9 out of every other 100 million people did not. Like, nobody else watched that. That was a very niche, small thing. So that doesn't even matter. And in that game, he is beyond forgettable. His character's a fucking joke. His storyline is shit, and he's nothing more than a yes man.
That can fight.
Yeah, and he can fight.
Yeah.
He has no development. He has no character of his own. He is a military grunt. And if that's what you want, then
what was the Master Chief starting off as?
The Master Chief was the same, but Master Chief is the definition of generic white hero right now. He was generic hero until he took his mask off, and now he's a generic white hero.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be out of your mind. Nobody goes to Halo for the story. Now, I understand there's things around Halo that add to the story and add to the lore that you can delve into, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the video game.
I'm talking about the video game too, but
in that role, he's a generic dude. At what point does Locke do something to make him stand out?
Oh,
there's none. Yeah, but that could be anybody. That could be a fucking Cylon.
What does it for you?
To some degree, that is the idea of diversity.
No, but
it's that you don't have to constantly have it be the white person. That these roles are fillable. And I know my example earlier with Nathan Drake being in Chinatown wasn't the best, but that's the point I'm trying to get at. You have these characters who can be filled by other roles than what you currently see them as.
I understand that, but that's not what you were saying in the beginning. In the beginning, you were
talking about
having a protagonist fully flushed out with this bigger backstory, explaining who they are and why they're doing what they're doing.
I like that. But I also said that I'd like to see the studios that currently exist put the effort that they put into the characters they currently have into someone else.
But that's not effort. See, so, I'm sorry. To me, that's not effort. And that's why I said...
If you're using Locke as an example...
Right.
If you're using Locke as an example.
Them to just take their generic white guy and make him a generic black guy, then that's fine. That's what Locke is. If you want him to become a generic black chick, fine. That's what Locke is. His story's not good. His story isn't anything.
Yeah.
To be perfectly honest, well, his story's But
Bar, come on, man.
It's not.
No,
you gotta play.
What I'm saying,
you gotta.
Yeah.
Look at it again.
I've gone through it, but what I'm saying is,
You're just glad he's black.
What?
You're glad he's black.
I'm glad that
he's not white. He's not like
that. He's something other than the normal stereotype, and that he's on that platform.
He is.
That's fine.
In that game. He's a know nothing to you, Phil, but in that game, he's a significant part of it.
To a degree, but it's not because he's not white.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with his...
That's fine. Okay, if that's what you're arguing,
his race isn't a superpower, and I don't want that to be the case. I don't want race, gender, or parents to be some ability over other things. I want it to be a video gaming industry where I can look at persons who don't always look like the same representation of what a hero has to be.
Okay.
Like that.
Okay. Right. And I get that, and I 100% have no problem with that, and I think that's something we can move toward. I just don't think it's something that you ask the people in place to do. Because I don't think they can.
Well, I
don't think they can.
When we talk about Locke, right? Okay. I don't know if that's the same thing as what we're talking about, like with the traditional protagonist that we.
It's not. So it's two different things. They can do Locke. They can do Locke every day.
Okay. Yeah.
Locke doesn't. No offense, Locke doesn't matter. They can do that no problem.
But what I'm saying is, as much as you would quickly say Locke doesn't matter, I think Locke's a huge step.
Okay.
I think Locke is a huge step. Even if you want to look at him as a generic, skin over the same generic role, I think he's a huge step because he isn't some no-name character in some no-name game that that most of the world will be completely oblivious of. He is someone who was featured in advertising for a flagship in a game that a lot of people play.
Wow.
And if I think, personally, a part of any diversity being successful is familiarity with it. Even if hypothetically there's no backstory to Locke whatsoever, having that face be in a universe like that, having Lara Croft be in a universe like that, being an option, being something where you get familiar with seeing.
Yeah, but Lara Croft is not the same as Locke.
I don't agree with that. Exactly. Because I think that's two totally different things.
But can I say this really quick? But I'm just wondering what you think of this. Mm-hmm. Do you think that they made Locke as a result of the concept that they want him to be the antithesis of Master Chief, and they factored his skin color in? Like, I'm not saying that that's what they did, but I'm saying is if they did do that as a result of them trying to say, okay, now we want to have somebody in this game be the complete opposite of Master Chief, then that's not what they're not throwing him in just to throw him in. They're throwing him in for that reason. You get what I'm saying?
I don't think they made him black to be the villain.
No, not the villain.
Antithesis. He's the opposite.
I don't think they made him black solely so he would be the anti-Master Chief.
But he is, right? He is a direct result throughout the whole game until the end, basically. Throughout the whole game. Because, I'm taking it at face value. I'm taking it at the way the story was portrayed from the beginning, when we first saw the trailers, to how they explained who Locke was, to everything, until you get to the end of the game where he starts to, kind of see where Master Chief's going with this. But up until that point, he was the antithesis of Master Chief. He wasn't the enemy, but he was what everything Master Chief wasn't at the time. And I'm saying to you, like, if your argument is, if what you want is to have it just to have it, and we're using Master Chief Halo as a reason, what are the chances that that wasn't the reason? And are you okay with that?
I say it again, personally, I don't think that's the reason. I just
humor me. If they come to say that that's the reason, are you okay with it?
Okay.
I think I'm still okay with it, just because it is what it is. Again, I don't care, because it's not part of the. It doesn't really matter.
I think if they say that,
yeah,
then I can't even say disappointing. It's weird. I think it's like it's
why
weird.
Why the fuck would you say that?
Yeah, but you would. my point is, you don't know definitively whether or not that's the result. But I would say that
understandably,
it's more like it's possible based on the concept of that character, isn't it? It's more than likely that that's a probable reason. And I'm not saying that they did it in a way like, oh, let's make him black. Yeah, let's make him completely. I'm saying, like, hey, he has to be completely different from Master Chief for this to work. Okay, like I just wonder how much goes into that, and if that's the case, like that's still not the way that they should do it. But I get what you're saying. Like I'm glad that they are including diversity in games, and they need to continue to push that. I just think when we talk about AAA games and stuff like that, like for the most part. For most games, it doesn't. Fine, I want to see it. You know what I mean? But when we talk about I don't want to see like tokenism. I don't want to see, the dumb blonde or Barrett. I can't believe we're using Barrett so much in this.
He fits perfectly.
But again,
there's an problem with Barrett.
But
he just fits that role.
But we're not putting into we're not factoring in who's making that game.
What do you think they do to Barrett? Sorry, that's
what I mean, and how they're localizing the stuff he's saying for America. You get what I'm saying?
That's really what it was.
Because that's it's whoever's localizing the game, their perception of how Barrett should speak.
Mm.
I
get you.
And so I mean that's a different thing in itself, because the games we talk about for the most part that could do it that don't, like Uncharted, like Halo, up until a point.
I thought they announced a female.
And what?
She's black, yeah.
Yes.
She's black in Uncharted.
Oh, yeah. Voiced by the white chick.
Yeah. And people got mad, but whatever. It is what it is.
Really mad about that.
And it's one of those things where those are all American companies. Like I'm talking about the people making those games, not the Sony. But I'm saying and if they need to stop being lazy and just having a template for a protagonist, right? Like that is traditional, and just make them black, make them Hispanic, make them Chinese, right?
It doesn't. I'm less concerned about what race you make somebody or what gender you make somebody.
Okay.
As long as you can at some point go into a GameStop and look at the covers of these games and see diversity. Some representation of cultures other than one, specific one, constantly. And I'm not saying it's currently at this point where I have never seen a cover with a non-white lead on it. No. But I'm saying there is diversity in our country.
Mm-hmm.
As flourishing as it is in some places, as limited as in others. But to walk into a GameStop and look at the covers, you wouldn't think that. That's the problem I have. I can't stress this enough. I'm not looking solely for let's only have like black male leads and no. That's to me that's stupid. To me that's really stupid.
You just want more black leads. Right? Like
it doesn't have to be black.
But I'm saying you want more diversity.
More diversity, yes.
For diversity.
Yes.
Okay.
Like I want there to be the understanding of we have so much more we can pull from than this one group we've tapped into.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it's not just here. Like there are Japanese-based gaming companies who are making the white male lead that we make here.
Yeah.
It's not just here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but that's painting with such a broad brush, because the Japanese games companies are also making shit tons of games that are so Japanese centric that they don't even make it here. So that's not fair. That's a very
no.
broad
I'm not
brush
saying
to
they
use.
solely do. I'm saying
I know, but that's how it sounds
also,
when you say that.
Didn't mean for it to sound that way. I'm saying that they also make the same
because it sells though.
But
like Bar, I get it. Hold on. Let's before we go in another circle, because I think we've taken enough circles on this racetrack. I get it. I get the point. I get that it feels good and it feels better that you had somebody in lock who wasn't just this white guy doing things, right? That you had a person of color portrayed in a positive way, portrayed as, we don't really know yet, maybe he's going to be a hero. We got to see how that story plays out, but potentially to be the strong hero character in that role, and that you want to see a continued move towards more diversity overall. So not everybody has to be black, Hispanic.
Yeah, but
more than one a year. Okay, we get that. I think where we really defer on is, one, who dictates where that goes. You have the belief that the companies around now are the ones that should be pushing that message. I believe more of a grassroots campaign, almost, of these people who have felt this way, and maybe they're already in the pipeline, maybe they're already down that road. They're the ones that need to bring this to the surface and show that it's important. Jason, I think, is in between.
I'm always in between with you two.
Right.
Just call me.
Awkward.
I know, right?
It's not awkward.
Just call me the PB and J between the sandwich.
Well, that got weird. So anyway,
I just call myself two flavors.
so like we all agree on that. I think we can all sit here and can only benefit from becoming more diverse.
Yeah.
They can only incorporate more views and more sides of things. So at the end of the day, we just need more of it, right?
Yes.
We can all agree on that.
We need to
Maybe
continue
we don't agree
to have
how
more.
It gets there.
Yeah.
Right. We don't agree how it gets there, but we agree we need to get there.
And we got to tell developers it's not a good idea to make games like Slave Trade. Just saying.
Stop name dropping that, man.
No.
It's getting weird.
No. Seriously, check out Steam.
That's really bad.
But it's like that kind of shit just doesn't make sense to me, and but you know.
Right. So a very basic sum up, Slave Trade. Don't make a racist game. It's pretty simple, actually.
Don't try to justify making a racist game.
Just don't make a racist game.
So
just really quickly, if you're going to create something as the guise of educational, and then use the defense that we can include some of the significant factors of it because of the age we're appealing to, maybe we should consider not trying to appeal through a video game to that age, that content. If you're making subject that is very, very, very adult orientated, maybe it's for adults.
Yeah, and maybe you don't make Slave Tetris as a way to teach kids about it.
Yeah, man.
Fair. All right, so that whole debacle.
How did we get here?
This was just our thoughts. Again, I'm Phil. That's Jason. Say
bye.
I guess I don't know. That's Bar. We will catch you next week. We try to post weekly. Check us out. Let us know what you think. If you want to see more diversity. If you don't comment. I don't really care.
Don't be trolling. Don't be trolling in the comments.
If you want to see more, comment. Let us know what you think. and we'll catch you next week. Bye bye.